You won't believe what happened when a psychiatrist finally admitted the truth that most of us are afraid to say out loud. That maybe nothing is actually wrong with you, or them, or anyone. And that simple shift opened the door to a completely different kind of healing. Let's get into the conversation with Dr. Fred Moss. Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I am your host, Tenya Eichenberg, and today I have with me Fred Moss. Fred, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and to tell us your story of your transformation.
Yeah, Tina, it's great to be here. It's my pleasure, and sure, I can share a story, but ultimately, what we're here to do is make a contribution to the universe in some ways, and that's why we're here. It's why we're here from the very beginning. It's why any and all of us are here, and I'm hoping that along with my story, that it somehow morphs or how do they say it, like transmutes into being a contribution for your listeners and for you, as well as for me in the process.
Oh, I think it absolutely will. I think everybody who listens to my show, your show, anyone's show, right? Those are the people that are supposed to hear something in that episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, we don't listen or read or hear anything by chance. I
And
think
that's
it's
true.
all there's always something that we need to there's always a lesson, which our egos are like, when are the lessons going to end? Why do we have to keep finding all these lessons? But there really is a lesson in everything that we say, speak, or do, right?
Yeah, I think so. And, that's what we've already had a few conversations like that in our pre-conversation, of course, about atomic habits showing up in my bookshelf this morning.
Yep.
And, it's not, I haven't even barely opened my eyes and atomic habits is here. I had given it to a patient yesterday, and I have two copies that are, close enough to me. And you can see there's one, right? You can see
Uh-huh.
that. And there's another one. Look at that.
The
So
one book, is that a book that you give out to a lot of people? Is that like your
no, no, not necessarily. I wouldn't say that. I have a number, my shelves are filled with completely beautiful books everywhere. I was looking yesterday, sitting in this really cool space I have in my living room. Um, and there is essentially, my wife is such a great purveyor of books as well. But when we look at our shelves and we have these shelves and shelves and shelves of books, um, I honestly don't even think there's a book on the shelf that I don't would think is not a good idea to read. It's
right,
like
right.
I have literally 1,000 books, I'd say, in this room. And if I could somehow read 995 of them, there's probably five of them. Maybe there's duplicates. I don't have to read both Atomic Habits, for
Right.
instance. But in reality, the books that we have here are just brilliant, and humanity is brilliant, and humanity has worked and struggled and found its way crawling and bumbling and stumbling and tumbling through this universe and this dimension for at least thousands of years. And it's a real testament to there has been, we think we're living in challenging times, right? We would both
We think
say
we are.
we think
We
we
think
are.
we are.
We really think we are. We were
Yeah.
really pretty sure that this is like the most challenging times that humanity's ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo,
No, I'm sorry, but we have indoor plumbing. We have
no, we got
electricity.
so much things going on. Not that it's look, I'm not going to go so far to say that it's not challenging or
Right.
even that it's less challenging. I'm okay with it being as challenging as any time that we've ever had in
Yes.
life. I am not okay with this being the most challenging
Right.
that humans have ever faced.
Right.
And our forefathers or the people who preceded us, our lineage is to get us to where we're going, and including us being alive for the number of 5 6 decades or so that we've been on. We've done a pretty good job. The fact that we woke up this morning, the fact that we are having any kind of conversation this morning in an effort to make a contribution, in an effort to pay attention to the lessons that there are to learn is a testament to who we are and to, and we are after all, the final step or the most recent step of the lineage that preceded us. And, we get to take advantage of the fact that there's been a lot of brilliance and a lot of tenacity in our humanity before us and in our life before now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say that as humans, being human is challenging in
Dude,
itself, having this
dude.
human experience.
Oh my gosh.
And when you get into the weeds of like, how did we get here? Why are we here? There's so many different reasons that people put out there, right? We're here to have lessons, we're here to evolve, we're here to give our soul experience, that human experience. And then you get into like, you hear that like, oh, we choose our family, we choose our parents, we choose these lives. And then you're like, why?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have very challenging human experiences, and there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But it's when you start to, and I'll use the word awaken, but when you start to really awaken to what's going on around you and come to the place of why is this happening for me instead of why is this happening to me, it can really shift your perspective
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah.
on what your life means.
Yeah.
And I I just got in the last 8 months our first grandchild, and I'm like, oh, I can't
Wow.
wait until she's like 2 years old and I can ask her what's the meaning of life,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
she doesn't have all that indoctrination and programming and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
at what point, because you are a licensed therapist, correct?
No, I'm a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist.
I'm a doctor. Yeah. I went to medical school, the whole thing.
But you've kind of you shifted how you see patients. Is that correct?
People think it's a shift. It's in some ways when I get asked this question, I have to answer it honestly, of course. And it's not really a shift. What it is it's an expansion. It's an extension. Meaning, the way this all worked is it depends how far you want to go back. But if we just go back to the point of the point of transition, if you will, it was I had dropped out. I had been really enchanted with this whole idea of communication ever since I was born. And as I look back, and I mean that, since the moment I was born to a family in chaos and disarray. And I had two of these older brothers, 10 and 14 years old. I can only imagine them as, rebellious little teenagers. And Freddie came to bring some form of peace and love and unity to a family that was having so much conflict. And I knew and learned very, very early on that this was going to happen through communication, whether that meant me being cute or being funny or being precocious or, crying, whatever it is that I needed to do to make a difference in my communication, I could actually change the world around me. And I saw that and felt that, and then saw my masterful brothers and parents actually getting that job done. And I wanted to learn how to communicate. And I thought that would happen through the conventional system. I really did. I figured, what do you go to school for if it isn't to learn how to communicate? And it isn't to learn how to communicate, as it turns out. And that isn't why you go to school at all. And I learned that very early on. I was precocious. My brothers taught me things that kindergartens didn't know. And by the time I got there, I knew how to read a little bit. I knew how to do math. I knew how to write. I knew a little bit about the world. I knew about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was right after, Kennedy was shot when I was in kindergarten, and I remember that. And, it was a big, big deal. The Beatles came on that same year. It was a big, big deal. And so communication was really what I was after. And when I say the Beatles, by the way, when I say the Beatles and I say Kennedy, I start realizing, oh yeah, these are two of my life-changing events that took place 6 months apart that absolutely locked me into, okay, what the hell are we going to do now? What's the point? What's our meaning? I see my parents falling apart, on November 22nd. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? What are we doing? And it was a shocking time. So I went through school and realizing immediately that, my first grade teacher and all my elementary school teachers, would just tell me to sit down, be quiet, do what I do. And they had to tell me that a lot, by the way. I liked speaking, and there's no elementary school teacher who forgot having Fred as a student. I'm pretty positive of that. And, I got through school somehow by sort of conforming, doing what they were asking for me to do in junior high, and even then worse or more in high school. And I decided, well, there's got to be another place to learn how to communicate. And there was stuff going on in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I lived about 40 miles away, and I thought, okay, well, let me do whatever I can to roll myself into University of Michigan. And I did that, and I went in as an engineer. Literally, no kidding, having no idea what an engineer even was. I joked that I really thought it was the guy in the back of the train. I didn't. I don't know.
That's what I always thought too.
I don't know anything about an engineer. They told me if you have really good math scores, you can get into the engineering school. I'm like, okay, I got good math scores. Let's go. And that's what got me into Michigan. Well, it didn't work out. After about a year and a half, I decided that wasn't going to be the field that really, floated my boat. So I dropped out and got on a bus and went all the way to California, to Berkeley, California, on that Greyhound, and with all my stuff. And, the idea was I got to find out who I am and what's the point. And I had a great summer in Berkeley, but it wasn't sustainable. And there was this new industry that my brothers and parents had told me that I probably had an aptitude for, that I could pursue, that they thought, being a dropout and living in Berkeley wasn't going to be the life that worked for me either. So back to school I went for this new industry. You might have heard of the industry. It was called computers. And it was like, yeah, that's the one that they thought I was going to be good at. And there was only one working computer in all of Michigan. And where was it? Well, it was on Ann Arbor's campus. And so back to Ann Arbor, I went one more time for this 2-acre facility that they called a computer. And, I went in there every single day with patch cards and punch cards and batch jobs, and just like trying to put together these ridiculous programs that did nothing. And it was like, no, this isn't going to work either. So I dropped out again. And this time promised that I would never go do this conventional education ever again. Please let me learn how to live life. And then maybe I'll come back to education. But my mom, she's amazing. She's like, well, we got to get you a job. Mom, yeah, whatever. Mom, moms are interested in making sure that their kids work or I don't know, whatever.
Oh, so they want to make sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah. So that was her. I'm sure that was her intention. And she got me a couple applications for civil service work. And back in Michigan now. And the 2 applications she got were for an unemployment office, where I could have actually sat behind the desk and just fed people their unemployment checks and assessments. And maybe by now I would be like a foreman or a manager. I don't know what I would be. Or the second job, which was to be a child care worker at a state mental health facility for adolescent boys. And I guess boys and girls were there. And I chose the second one because it was actually coming on quicker, and there was a 3-week orientation associated with it. And that meant I could get paid full time to sit in a conference room, twiddling my thumbs, pretending to listen to an orientation for 3 weeks, get 3 paychecks, buy myself a car, and get back on the road so I could figure out what my life was about. And that was my true and honest full intention on January 5th, 1980, when I started. That was my seniority date. So it's 46 years coming around the corner here. And after 3 weeks, where I'd now had 3 paychecks at $13 an hour or something, I could have actually stopped and gone by myself.
That's a lot in 1982.
I got stuff to do. I got things to see. I got places to go, So I didn't. On that 4th week, my friend Paul, who later became a very, very good friend of mine, colleague, convinced me to go up to Meadowview 5, where the 17-year-olds were. That's where I was assigned for that 4th week Monday. And I went with white knuckles, man. I was scared bejesus, man. I was like, what is going to happen on this floor? And by the end of the week, I had made it through the week and maybe even saw some hope in that communication was going to now be used as a tool that I could get paid for to help heal other people. Like, oh my goodness, this was a breakthrough. Like, this was a real breakthrough. And as a childcare worker, I got very good. I got very competent. I got very interested. And I got moved to afternoon shift. And I loved afternoon shift, coming in late after admins left and just working with the kids and feeding them and telling them stories and playing softball and basketball. It's fun. But when I talk about the transition that you're, a long-winded answer to your short question, the transition took place sort of then when I realized how much I disliked psychiatry. I really did dislike psychiatry and the future of it. And I disliked the psychiatrist I was working with. I loved the job, but the psychiatrist, the direction that psychiatry was taking was not one I was in tune with. And this was this idea of restraining and constraining people who are out of bounds from whatever the listener wanted to see, whatever the viewer wanted to have happen. And we would we would call the psychiatrist when Timmy and Tommy got into a fight or when Jimmy was up too late. And he would come down and talk to Jimmy for like 4 seconds, talk to us for another 3 or 5 seconds, go into the nursing aid station, write some order in the chart, and we'd have to go retrieve the child, hold him down, and give him some injection of some, Molotov cocktail that would put him into a misery or put him into a stupor, actually. And if that happened, we would call that a success story. I was like, this is barbaric and unacceptable. So the reason I had already promised never to go back to school ever again under any conditions, but this time I could see that maybe I could be a champion for bringing communication back to the world of mental health. Yeah. And so I went in already disliking the field, very much disliking the field, and already misaligned with what the future of psychiatry was headed for. But I went back to school, got my degree, and then went to medical school in Chicago and had a great time in Chicago. Not so much at medical school, but in Chicago. And when I got expelled out after my residency and fellowship, there I was as a child and adolescent psychiatrist. And I by this point had become typecast, and a new drug had been introduced to the world that changed the world's paradigm about mental health directly and totally. And we all know the drug. The drug is called Prozac. And when Prozac was introduced in 1987, it literally changed everything about the mental health world. It gave everybody this new idea that if you were uncomfortable, it meant that there was something wrong with you. And that was the first time that we had ever really heard that. And now but we all know now that if we're anxious or if we're depressed or if we're afraid or resentful or we're impulsive or we're distractible or we're late on our papers or we're awkward in a crowd or we're mean to our spouses or we have too many thoughts or we think not enough or we feel hopeless or helpless, all those things mean there's something wrong with us. Well, it turns out doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us.
Right.
But that's the paradigm that got advanced.
Right.
It got advanced there. And now psychiatry and mental health, as it's developed over the 4 decades since, has literally become, entirely built on that foundation. People come in when they're uncomfortable and declare that there's something wrong with them. It's the only subspecialty in all of medicine for which when you tell somebody there's nothing wrong with them, they get pissed.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in oncology. That doesn't happen in ophthalmology. That doesn't happen in, cardiology. Like if your cardiologist tells you you're okay, you're kind of good with it, right?
Right.
If your psychiatrist tells you you're okay, you got to go get yourself a new psychiatrist because someone has to confirm what you already know is that there's something wrong with you. And, this is an odd thing to have to argue with somebody whether they're okay or not while they're telling you they're not. And you're telling, it's like, no. Your experience, uncomfortable as it is. And look, as you and I talked about briefly before, it's freaking hard being human.
It is.
It's hard. It's really hard. No joke. Like every single day is a major challenge. Every single minute is a major challenge. To put everything in order and be in the right place at the right time with the right intentions and the right actions associated with it,
it can be incredibly
it's
overwhelming.
masterful just to get it done.
Yep.
Just to live another second takes something. And so it's not about diminishing the discomfort. I'm not telling you, no, you're not uncomfortable, get over it. I'm saying, no, you are uncomfortable. It's just called humanity. That's all.
Right. And and that was one thing that I learned 5 years ago when I was looking for something and I say cure my anxiety and depression because I wanted that chronic feeling to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I wanted to be able to manage how I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that understanding shortly after going through this process of finding energy work and getting into self-care, was that I was never one taught or allowed to really be uncomfortable.
Right.
Because my mom, who was diagnosed with being bipolar when I was like 8 years old, had to figure out how to manage that. My dad had to figure out how to manage her and all of us kids. It was just like there was no time to teach us kids how to have emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that is
Understood.
the biggest problem with our human existence, is that we have gotten so far away from being able to feel our feelings and understand what they mean that we automatically think there's something wrong with us when we are feeling anxious or feeling sad or feeling mad.
Yeah, exactly. And no, we've been confirmed that there's something wrong with us. There's a whole paradigm, there's a whole prevailing conversation that absolutely confirms the notion that if in fact you're not rolling through the day with ease, then there's something wrong with you.
Right.
It's like, dude, there's nothing wrong with you for real. And this is what I want, and people equate, sometimes I say something like that and people say, I disagree. Well, look, I am not even changing or even suggesting that your experience of life, miserable as it might be, is anything less than real. It's totally real.
Yeah.
Totally. It's completely real.
Yep.
It's not like you're making it up. I get it. I get it. Life is hard and your experience is miserable. Totally get it. What I'm saying is that does not suggest that there's anything wrong with you.
Right.
That's the whole point here.
Right. It's we're not taught how to respond effectively to what's going on around us.
That's right.
We're taught to pull back and not deal with it.
Well, it's one of the things that we learn, and so we learn, the way I like to look at it is back in the day, and when I was 6. So, I had Miss Rosenau for kindergarten, and she's the one who had to deal with precocious Fred. But I had Miss Monroe for first grade, and she's the one who had to deal with the idea that I knew how to write already. The crack in the cement got created right there.
Yeah.
The idea that I could no longer count on my formal communication to be what drove the conversation forward, that I needed to sit down, be quiet, watch the whiteboard or the blackboard, and then do what she says so that I could get into second grade, meant that I could no longer be fundamentally myself anymore.
Right.
I needed to learn how to be something I wasn't in order to protect the person that I was. Right. And that's how life unfolded. Now, the truth is that crack in the cement is we've never gone back and fixed it. And I think that's what you're talking about. So the crack has gotten larger and larger over time, where we've learned how to not be ourselves. We learned how to not be our true voice. Or as Henry David Thoreau so brilliantly put it, I think it's the mass of men live lives of quiet desperation and then go to their graves with their songs still in them. And we go to our grave frequently with our songs still in us, which is perhaps, as I see it, maybe the greatest tragedy of anyone's life, is to go through life, all of life, and have nobody get to know you at all.
Yeah.
Like that actually is possible by not expressing your true self, by not being aligned with what's really happening, by not being in touch with your experiences, your circumstances, your sensations, your feelings, and your thoughts. without being really aligned with those things, well then, or at least being aware of and being able to embrace or understand or at least work with those experiences, then we don't get to be our true self. We don't get to explore genuine humanity. We don't get to be authentic. And if we're not authentic, then what the hell are we doing? We've reached a point where like we don't say what we mean anymore. We talk when we say, a level of absurdity that maybe other cultures haven't had to experience as much as ours does now. It includes that we actually say things out loud now that even we don't believe.
Yeah.
That is what the hell is driving that ridiculous phenomenon? You actually produce things, say them out loud, and as you're doing it, you already know that you don't believe what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. What is driving that? And I kind of got my own ideas. We don't want to be thrown off the island. We don't want to be disregarded. We don't want to be tossed out. We don't want to be blocked out of a group. We don't want to be, disenfranchised. And we'll do almost anything, including lie, cheat, and steal ourselves in order to stay in the group. So, and it doesn't even work. It's an absurd, preposterous, ludicrous way to go through life. You're still going to be hated. You're just going to be hated for saying stuff that isn't you.
Right.
But
I think a lot of people have a really hard time with allowing themselves to get to know who they are.
Right. Exactly.
Because they're afraid of who they might be, and realize that they have been living a lie their whole life.
It is, that's a bold statement right there, for sure. But look, we all are living a lie, including me and you. We think we're so evolved. I mean, me and you, we're not that evolved. We're not that different than everybody else, even if we can speak to this. Maybe we got a little edge that we're speaking to this pretty cool concept. But ultimately, we put on clothes, we look a certain way, we get our hair a certain way, we choose our glasses, we choose how we appear on camera, we choose our background, we choose whatever we choose. And part of that is for image, it's for image.
Absolutely.
It's not really honest to what's really going on over here.
Yeah.
What's really going on over here is that I woke up this morning and I had to go through all of that, all of the internal chaos of what it means to wake up. Why do I have to get up? What do I have going on this morning? Who am I going to be? What am I going to say? Do I even have it in me? Oh, here's my third cat showed up, by the way.
That's good. I'm glad he's good. Hi, baby.
There's Winston there. What's up,
Winston?
Yep. And there's Despacito up there on the top there. Hard life. It's hard being a cat around here.
When in my next life, I'm coming back as a cat.
I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
So
coming
good.
Back as a cat.
So good. And, when you talk about like who to ask, like asking your 2-year-old about, what's life about. There's this is our third cat. You see him on the arm of the couch there, little stealth.
Yep.
That's all. That's where they are, all three of them. Could ask a cat what life is about. I learned from our cat, it
is about slowing. Honestly, when I have had clients, ask me like they want to know what their purpose is, right? What is their purpose in life? I'm like, honestly, I think your purpose is to find happiness in whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. Indeed.
Happiness in the challenges, find that silver lining, but don't focus too much on what is not working out.
It's interesting, I already this morning, and I'm almost feel guilty about sharing this, but I've already had really dark several moments this morning, like way resentful, way regretting, way angry. Like I can't contain myself. Like that level of concern. I wonder if I'm ever going to get out of this hole of discomfort and disempowerment that I'm having, like from the inside out. I've already had that this morning, and I'm not having it right now, which is a gift of what it means to be human is that this too shall pass, is
Right.
that really a shocking truth is that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
It's a shocking truth, right? Like when
Yep.
we're in the midst of that discomfort, one of the things about brutal discomfort is it also comes with a package that makes us feel like, uh-oh, I'm never getting out of here.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, when we're sitting in when stuff happens that especially when it's not in our control,
mm-hmm.
right? Somebody for whatever reason, they don't want to talk about whatever it is that's going on,
Yeah.
right? And you ruminate on that. Like what can I say? What can I do? What could I do differently? What if it went this way? What if it went that way? And that kind of stuff is what really feeds that anger, that resentment,
Mm.
that worry
Mm.
until you can stop yourself. And because I was there yesterday, like I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and could not get back to sleep, and all day tried to take a nap, could not get back to sleep because
I
every
hear you.
time I laid down, those same thoughts
I
kept
hear you.
coming up and coming up. And it's like
Yeah.
until I stopped and looked inward and was like, why do I keep ruminating on this? What
Yeah.
is it that is being stirred up, that is being triggered, that is all these, these words that are now like so heightened all over reels. I'm triggered, I'm pushed, I'm, all these things. But when you start to look inward and ask yourself, what is it that I keep ruminating on this about? 9 times out of 10, I think it comes to the root of feeling either unworthy, unloved, or unseen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think, that's what we want. We want to be worthy, we want to be loved, and we want to be seen. And when all three things are happening, when I'm appreciated, when I'm acknowledged, when I'm respected, when I'm listened to, when I'm connected, when those things happen, life takes on a whole new flair. It's kind of impossible to be ruminatively negative when all of those things are taking place. And, to your point, this idea of my thoughts actually create my world. It's not the data out there that has to shift in order for me to live a life that works. The data out there is challenging. We've already discussed that. There's lots of things out there that are really, really challenging. And that is not what needs to change in order for me to have a life that works. What
Right.
needs to change is that how I see that data and how I see me in this very temporary ride through this dimension where I get to do like what is the point? What am I doing here? How I see me is the contributor that gives me the world that I then get to live in more than the other way around. We think we're just describing, you had said it earlier, the Tony Robbins based phrase of life happening for us rather than life happening to us.
Right.
When we start realizing that each and every moment of time is an embedded lesson that we can then apply to who we then get to be as a higher quality human, having never arrived, never planning to actually arrive, maybe for moments like fly by, like, oh yeah, this is the life. I got this down. I don't want to live chronically anxious and depressed anymore. And I just found a key to that. And the key to that is, my outlook or how I see the world, or what is my context? What is the point? What is my purpose? What is the point of all this stuff that's happening around me versus what is the point that's all the stuff that's happening inside of me? I can start realizing that when I can a little bit regulate the things that are happening inside of me through some of the practices that I've compiled. I have something called the Moss method. And the Moss method is something that I've designed in the last 10 or 15 years of my career. And that is includes gratitude, includes getting out every single day, includes like meditation, includes what do we take into our mouth, whether that's organic food or lots of water or herbal teas or celery juice, or what about cold showers? I can't speak enough about the power of cold showers. People are like, ew. I'm like, no, dude, you should.
I will tell you on that note, it is different for women than it is for men.
Maybe. You haven't been both. I haven't been both. We're not really sure, and it's possible that it is different. I can tell you that, cold showers are remarkably powerful life
Yeah,
exchange, life-changing experience. And
they are. They are.
they just are. And, for me, I haven't missed a cold shower. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was down in, I don't know where I was. If I maybe on the East Bay, I'm not sure where I was. And the hotel that I was staying in did not have cold water. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like my shower would turned all the way down was warm water. It was like,
wow.
I know, I never even experienced anything like that. I'm like, you don't understand. I am dedicated to putting a cold shower into my day. And it's not going to happen out of this hotel room. And I'm going to have to just write it out to, I tried. That's
right.
I didn't go find another shower. I just like, okay, I gave it my very best. Yeah. But for 3 years plus, I haven't missed a morning without a cold shower, including this morning. Because for me, it's like, it just has a resetting effect. And it's only one of the 20 things. There's creativity, there's taking walks in nature, there's pets, there's spirituality, there's being of service, there's
it's self-care.
It is self-care, and it's really easy.
Yeah.
These are easy things that are available without a doctor's order and without taking a lot.
Most of them are free.
Almost everyone is free.
Yep.
Almost everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I do this podcast, is because I want people to hear that, one, how powerful we are as human beings.
Unbelievable. We have no idea.
How we have everything that we need for our mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental health is all at our fingertips, and it's all free.
Yeah, it's true.
And we need guides like us, like you and me need guides like us to show us how to do some of these things effectively for us. But really, ultimately, we are empowered enough. We have to be empowered enough to do it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that you teach is you empower your clients to really do for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's, and maybe when looking at the original question of when did I shift, it's like you can hear that it wasn't really a shift. It's been a gradual evolution. Early on, upon being expelled, extracted, released into the world as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, there was a typecasting going on. And it's not early on, it's just it's this very moment, the typecast continues. And the typecast is, if you look up psychiatrist, not licensed therapist, but actually psychiatrist in the world, in Wiki, or anywhere in Google, if you want to look up what does a psychiatrist do, apparently we only have 2 job descriptions, and those are that A, we diagnose people, and B, we medicate people. It's like I don't do either of those things. I'm still a psychiatrist. I still got that license, and I'm but I'm not interested in traumatizing people with a diagnosis, and I'm definitely not interested in worsening people by giving them medications that are actually designed to keep them perpetually sick for real. Yeah. Like, I'm not that interested in that. And although I'm not interested in it, it is what was asked of me throughout my entire career, including, like I said, right now, this morning, that's what's being asked of me. And so finding a way to live that duplicity, meaning how I'm now being asked to be versus how I really am, and being able to negotiate and navigate that such that I don't have to live in 2 different worlds at the same time, has been the transition that I've made. If I have made a transition, it's been in amalgamating all of these experiences and putting together something that I can then declare is consistent with my core values. And what I put in is along the lines of what you just said. That's what Welcome to Humanity is. That's what the Undoctor really is. That's what Global Madness is. That's what the True Voice technology is. That's what the Moss Method is. That's what Undoctor Reset is about. That's what, the Creative 8 is. And all of those things are things that I've done in my last decade or 15 years. to really take on having people rediscover. It isn't that I'm giving them back their power. I'm not doing anything, actually. I'm just creating a space for people to realize that which you've just said, which is our immense power to create the world that we get to then live into is worth noting, way worth noting, rather than just submitting to the idea that there must be something wrong with me because I'm miserable, because I'm hopeless, because I'm nervous, because I'm fearful, because I'm terrified, because I'm sad, because I'm distracted, because I'm late, because I'm, confused. All of those disempowering contexts, which are fundamental, literally fundamental to being a human, like that we all know. There's no word that I just said where you're like, sorry, you felt that. I didn't. No, you did. You felt every single thing I just said many, many times over because you're human. I'm just assuming you're human. I hope that you are. I don't know that you are, but these days you can't even tell that, for God's sake. And
completely human over here.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. I believe you. But that's what a bot would say anyway. So either way, oh yeah, I'm human. Anyway, or a plebeian for that matter. Anyways, we start looking at re-empowering people with the discovery that they are who they've been the whole time, and that the life that they're living is a function of how they see the world. Like really getting that new behaviors and new strategies, new tactics, new practices, new exercises creates a world that is different than the one you've lived into right into this very moment.
Yeah.
We are not slaves in any way to the history that brought us to now.
Yep.
I get it. You've had some trauma in your history. I get it. I get it. You had some terrible shit happen in your past. I truly get it. Here's the truth about that stuff. Even that stuff doesn't dictate your next move.
Yep.
Your next move is available to you.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't
we all have choices.
It doesn't mean disregarding the trauma.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
I'm not saying disregard. I'm saying your next move is not restricted to responding to that trauma.
Right.
It's not. You have thousands, if not millions of choices of things you can say, do, or be starting right now.
Yep.
When we get that we are that character, we are the character that stands between the experiences we've already had and the actions that we're about to take and seeing, being, and doing. Like when we get that that's the impossible and most shocking and in fact most extraordinary responsibility that sits with us as humans, then we get to really step into a new sense of being a powerful agent for how our life goes. And that's really exciting. And, that's what Welcome to Humanity is. And that's why I now am working with, the Undoctor is my affectionate moniker, which a friend of mine gave me at a Vision Quest a number of years ago. As the Undoctor, I help people undiagnose themselves, unmedicate themselves, and then undoctrinate themselves so that they never, ever, ever have to come back to a professional mental health provider at any time in their life for any reason. They can. You can.
Right.
No problem. You want to go see a psychologist or your therapist or a doctor?
Right.
By all means. That's one of your options for sure. There are a lot of options. You can go take ayahuasca. You can go take a walk in nature. You can go play with your cats. You can go take a nap. You can go eat a pizza. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. It's okay, including go to a psychologist. No problem. I'm not saying don't ever go. I'm saying you will not have to go.
Right. You won't feel like, You give them the space where they can start making the decisions for themselves.
Exactly. They're not forced. It's like, I don't know if you heard yourself, but I think you already know this. You talked about that there's some implication that comes down. And, I heard you sort of be part of this as well. So there's an implication that comes down when we attach ourselves to that thing called a diagnosis that some supposed professional gave us.
Right.
So, a good little allegory that comes with this is, let's say that you walked into my office and, I'm the doctor in this particular setup, and you're a patient in this particular setup, and you come in and you tell me you got these concerns. You heard I'm, a good diagnostician, you want some help. And you come in and say you have your skin is gray and mottled. You have way too big a nose. You have, I don't know, you're in love with peanuts. You're drinking way too much water, and you're a mess in a china shop, and you want me to help you out. I'm like, okay, let's take a look. And I'm thumbing through my book, my DSM-14 that I have, and I just like, okay, here we go. Okay, I found it. And you're like, oh, great, you're the best. What is it? I'm like, oh, you're an elephant. And you're like, that is so good. At least I now have an explanation for the crap that I've been doing. And people love getting that diagnosis. But what people don't realize is that you then become an elephant at that moment.
Yep.
And you become the elephant you thought an elephant was before you became an elephant. You become that kind of elephant. So when you leave my office on that day, the first thing that you're looking for is a circus in chains, because that's where elephants live. And you just became an elephant. And then when you take it home and you're like, went to this great doctor, best diagnostician in town, and I gave him my list. Guess what? I figured out what was wrong with me. And your brothers and sisters are like, yeah, we've been wondering what's wrong with you. And then you tell them, well, I'm an elephant. And they're like, no, you're not. And you're like, no, I am. I've been diagnosed by a professional. And you're like, well, anyways, you're not an elephant. And you're like, you start feeling sorry for them.
Right.
Because they don't know yet. And then you start feeling scared for them, because they're in your same genetics pool, and they probably have some elephant characteristics that they're not going to ever be told about, because they're not even open to the idea of being the elephant that you've just learned that you are.
Right.
This is how psychiatric diagnoses actually become very viral. This is how psychiatric diagnoses ease their way into this idea. And what am I pointing to, by the way, was your statement about your mom. This idea that she had been diagnosed with bipolar, and then people have to deal with her as if she is that. Actually, maybe she wasn't that. Maybe she was just her.
Right. Yep.
That's all. Like, that's way more likely.
And that's ultimately what I've been able to come to, is that she was who she was based off of what her life experiences were.
Maybe, yeah. She get to make the same choices, to say, be, and do whoever she was at any given moment, choosing whatever her best decision was at any given time, even if it was counterproductive, even if it was self-deprecating, whatever it was. She did what she did, given the opportunity to do what she did. She's done what she is. She says what she says, or doesn't say what she doesn't say. And that's just her dealing with what it takes to be human. We've got an audacity as a collective humanity. A major audacity is that we have never truly defined, no one that I know of, and I've looked for this, has ever truly defined in any universal way what it means to be normal. Now, if we look at that incredible phenomena that no one has ever defined in any real way, what it means to be normal,
mm-hmm.
What kind of audacity do we have to declare out loud that we understand what abnormal is? That's just unbelievable. Compared to what, bro?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, compared to what? Like, do you think you got what? It's only compared to one thing. It's compared to the diagnostician's sense of what's normal. That is fluid in its own right. It's completely manifested and embellished in its own right. It's fabricated. It's freaking nonsense.
Yep.
We don't know what normal is, and yet we think we have a stake in the ground that can help us understand what abnormal is. And given the license, poetic license, and actually paper license that doctors and therapists and counselors and social workers and psychologists and clergy and given the license that we think we have, when we say you're bipolar or you're autistic spectrum or you're ADD or you're social anxiety or you're chronic PTSD or you're narcissistic, we think both the receivers of that and the givers of that think that we're saying something for real. Actually, we're not saying shit.
Right.
We're really not. We're saying something convenient that allows me to leave the office, for instance, knowing that I'm an elephant. And if I know I'm good, man. At least then I can say, honey, that wasn't me.
Right.
That was my elephant. And if I can relinquish responsibility for my life in any way, especially the stuff that I'm clumsy and bumbling over, or maybe the damage that I'm causing inadvertently or even like intentionally, if I can release myself from being the cause of the awkwardness of being human, of the shame and blame and guilt that comes with being human, I will gladly do that. Tina, if you want to take responsibility for the bullshit that I've already gone through this morning, please do. I'll gladly give it to you. That wasn't me. That had to do everything to do with the podcast I was on that morning. It's like, oh yeah, that's so cool. I'm free from responsibility for the stuff that's uncomfortable.
Well, and I think we do this. We do the same thing when we're looking at how people are acting. Right? We look at them and go, oh, but you're not acting normal, because however they're acting is not conducive to how whatever they're doing is making us uncomfortable. So therefore they're not acting normal.
Exactly. That's an equation that is just faulty. It's just faulty. It's like embedded.
It is years and years and generations of programming.
It is, exactly. And when we could step back just for a second, you do not have to be brilliant to see this. We can see that there is some significant flaws in that level of thinking.
Yeah.
Very significant.
Oh, yeah.
And yet it's understood as a prevailing conversation.
Absolutely. Fred, as we wrap up, I'd love to leave a couple nuggets for the listeners. What is one or two things that you want to leave with the listeners that they can take with them if, they decide just what to move forward with, like a couple nuggets that would help them out?
Yeah, I think the one that I mostly lay down, I like laying down when given this opportunity, and I was just reviewing whether this is the one that's right for this conversation. I think it is there really might be nothing wrong with you. No, really. No, even that part that you're pretty sure, oh, he just doesn't know. He doesn't know this about me. I'm like, no. Even with that, there still might be nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And when you can start from there, that this is how it's supposed to be, including the stuff that is so miserable that it needs to be rejected, including all those things. If we start treating this as a smorgasbord, like, at a Brazilian steakhouse or something, where you have that mid table that has food going on forever, and some of it's edible and some of it's miserable and, rancid, maybe not rancid, but unacceptable, doesn't meet your taste bud needs. We start getting that life is packed with all sorts of things, including the miracles and ecstasies, as well as the miseries and the, unspeakable pain and suffering. We can start getting that all of this is for us rather than to us. We start really getting that every piece, including the pieces that you can't even believe are pieces like this, are contributing to the lessons or the gift of what it means to be temporarily here on this dimension. And when we start really getting what's so about being human, and that includes the stuff that is just like intolerable in many ways, then that's where we get a start of launching from a space of a collective foundation. So the first thing I'd say is maybe there's nothing wrong with you. And then the second thing I'd say is something like, I think I'll take this from the from the big book. I'm pretty sure this line, I'll probably butcher it a little bit. It's like, no matter how far down the scale you have gone, you will find that your experience can benefit others. That is really key too.
Yeah.
You will find that if you're open and honest about the experiences that you've had, no matter how far down the scale of the ladder, I think it's called ladder, that you have gone, that your experience can benefit others. There is likely no experience in all of life that is more powerful than benefiting others. Mm-hmm. When we can be of service to benefit others for the sole sake of benefiting others, there is possibly no actual human activity that is more profound than that experience. My first book, called The Creative Eight, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression, has that as the actual trump card. It talks about creativity as being an exit from the morose daily nature of our difficulty of communicating with each other. Ultimately, the trump card, after art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, and gardening, the top 8, after we start looking at the back end of that, the thing that's going to work if those things aren't available or don't work is being of service, helping anybody do anything. And when we help anybody do anything, it's such it almost gives us that moment in time where, my life has been worth it. All you have to do is help that. Go sharpen somebody's pencil. And at that moment, you will get the fleeting experience that my entire life has been worth it up until this moment.
That's great. Fred, thank you so much for coming on. And this was such a wonderful conversation. I learned, I always learn something in these conversations. But yeah, this was great. And what is your website? Where can people find you?
So there's a few different places. I'm working on a different set of projects, but right now I think the best place is at Dr. Fred, drfred360.com, drfred360.com, and then welcometohumanity.net are the two websites. I troll around on social media a little bit. The only social media platform that I have any real respect for is LinkedIn. I hang around way too long on Facebook to be able to say what I said. I just can't stand Facebook, but it draws me in every day.
It does. I just recently took out all of my groups from Facebook and put my group on my website so that I don't need to go into Facebook.
I am, the algorithm has gotten so good, if you call that good.
Yeah.
If you call that good, the algorithm I used to believe that if I could be enslaved and they would just allow me to have my Spotify account, I'm good. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just let me listen to my Spotify. And because the algorithm, when I hit start on my Spotify, the next song is better than the song I thought I wanted to hear, like over and over again. That is actually true in Facebook now too, which is the next post is exactly what I think I needed to read. And it's like, it's so good. It's so good that it's terrible. It's so good that it's deeply tragic. Yeah.
Well, Fred, thank you so much for coming on. And I can't wait for everybody else to hear our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode brought you inspiration, joy, and a spark of empowerment. Remember, transformation is an incredible journey, and every single step you take towards self-care and healing brings you closer to the life you truly desire. If this episode uplifted you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us to share this journey of hope, resilience, and joy with many listeners. For more tips, support, and inspiration, come and visit us at designyourexistence.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining brightly. You are absolutely worth every bit of love and care you give to yourself. Take care, stay joyful, and be well.